Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching. Man, I sure do appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, hard to believe, but week 8 of the college football season has came and went. It's going to be over so soon. You got Halloween coming up, and Thanksgiving will be here before you know it. And that pretty much signals the end of the regular season, conference championship games, and then we'll be off to the bowl games. It will be over real quick. But week 8, gone. Got some winners, got some losers, and that means it's time for a new Uncle Lou Top 10 poll. Let's go. All right, I'm going to do this the same way we've been doing it all season long. I'll put last week's Uncle Lou Top 10 poll up on the screen so you guys can see it and sort of get an idea of where we started here heading into this week. Remember, this is the Uncle Lou poll, not the AP poll, not the coaches poll, not me trying to predict the playoffs. This is where I think the team should be ranked as of today. All right, so feel free to get mad, tell me where I'm wrong in the comments section, but again, this is just how I feel they should be ranked. This is where I had them last week. Of course, we had, one of these teams lose. Is that right? Yeah. So something is changing. All right. All right. We're going to start at number 10 and work our way down to number 1. I'll do my best to explain my reasoning behind some of the picks that I make. I don't expect everyone to agree with this poll. I don't expect everyone to agree with everything in this poll. But I do put some thought and some time into this poll. It makes sense to me. I don't expect it to make sense to everyone else. But again, this is, this poll's not based on who I hate. This poll's not based on Georgia's rivals, whatever. I've been doing this long enough to know how this works, okay? If you agree with where I put your team, then I'm a genius who really understands college football. If I put your team lower than you think they should be, then I'm an idiot who just hates your team. Believe me, I know that. Feel free to point it out in the comments, though, if you feel like you need to. After I run through the top 10, I'll tell you which teams are close to getting into the top 10 because, in my opinion, it does get pretty hard to separate really anything past team 6, in my opinion. But anyway, we're going to start at number 10 and work the way down to number 1. All right, coming in this week, number 10 on the Uncle Lou poll, same as last week, Notre Dame. Notre Dame was on a bye. They didn't play last week, so no chance to impress me, no chance to disappoint me. Just a bye week heading into their second biggest game of the season next week on the road at number 19, Michigan. Notre Dame, in my mind, has to not only win this game, they have to win this game impressively if they think they have any shot at making a playoff, which I don't think they do. I don't think Notre Dame's going to the playoffs. I've said this a million times. When you're Notre Dame and you refuse to join a conference and you don't have a 13th game, you better go undefeated. Notre Dame didn't do that. They've already lost one on the road at UGA. My preseason prediction for Notre Dame, I had them at 10-2 with losses to Georgia and Michigan. Michigan obviously been a little bit more disappointing, I think, than even most people thought they would be. What are they? 2 losses now. Blowout loss to Wisconsin. Lost last week on the road at Penn State. They've played themselves out of anything meaningful at this point. I do think this has the potential to be a close game and to be a good game. It obviously helps for Michigan to have this game at home. This will be a big one. Like I said, Notre Dame's got to not only win, but I think win convincingly. But listen, even if Notre Dame gets up into the top 5 at some point this season, hell, even if they get up to number 4 by the time the regular season ends, right? They're not going to play that next weekend. A lot of the top 5, 6, 7, 8 teams are going to be playing that first Saturday in December in conference championship games. Notre Dame's not. So even if Notre Dame finishes the regular season ranked 4th, they will get passed after conference championship week while they're sitting at home bragging about how they don't need to be in a conference. Another team will go out and get a big win and jump Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not getting into playoffs, but some of their idiot fans and maybe even the team itself still thinks they have a chance. If they do, they got to blow out Michigan. We'll see if they can do it. Number 9, new into the poll this week. I have Oregon at number 9. Do I think Oregon is an elite team with a chance to win the national title? No. A Pac-12 team would have had to go undefeated. And more importantly than that, you really needed a Pac-12 team to show up and beat one of the good teams in the SEC. Oregon was the team that had that chance week 1 this year in a neutral site game against Auburn, and they came up a little bit short. But since that game, Oregon's done nothing other than what they're supposed to do. They've gone out and won every single game they've played. They won a big rivalry game this past weekend against Washington, which was probably one of the most entertaining games of the week. It was a back-and-forth game, two great quarterbacks slinging the ball around there with Justin Herbert for Oregon and Jacob Eason for Washington. Oregon came out on top 35-31. That was Washington's third loss, so they joined the ranks of teams who are done playing for anything meaningful at this point. This week, Oregon plays at home against Washington State, a team they should be able to beat. Oregon still has to play probably Utah. Not a whole lot of difficult games left to find on Oregon's schedule. I would say at this point, it's pretty likely that they have an 11-1 regular season and win the Pac-12 North, and we'll see what they can do in the Pac-12 title game. But getting back to Notre Dame, ask yourself this: assume Oregon runs the table. If Oregon runs the table and wins the Pac-12 at 12-1, right? So they're 12-1, their only loss being to Auburn, versus Notre Dame, who would have one less win at 11-1, with their loss being on the road at Georgia. Ask yourself who should or who would be ranked higher in that scenario. So cry, Notre Dame. I don't know what to tell you, but Oregon comes in at number 9. Number 8 in the poll this week, I have the barn, Auburn. Time to start talking about them a little bit. I think they absolutely destroyed Arkansas on the road last week, 51-10. I know what you're thinking. It's Arkansas, but I'll say it for the millionth time. If you're playing a team that's not very good, go out and dominate them. That's what Auburn did. There are other teams that are pretty good that haven't been doing that lately. And they're no longer in the UNCLELOU top 10 because of it. When you play bad teams, if you're supposed to be one of the best 10 teams in America and you play a bad team, you should go out and dominate them. It's not Auburn's fault that Arkansas is bad, so Auburn goes out and destroys them, right? Play bad teams, you need to dominate them. If not, reap the whirlwind. Auburn won 51-10. I have them at number 8. Huge game for Auburn this week. So if you're an Auburn fan and you think 8 is too low, you think you're better than number 8, fine. Go on the road and beat LSU next week, and you'll move way up, not just in this poll, but in every single poll, all right? If you don't think Auburn has any business being ranked number 8, if you think Oregon or Notre Dame should be ahead of Auburn, or if you think there's a team outside of the top 10 that should be ahead of Auburn, don't worry. They play on the road at LSU. If you're right and Auburn has no business being in the top 10, they'll get road graded by LSU, and they'll be right back out of the top 10 next week. So don't worry about it. Don't get yourself too worked up about polls in October. But even though I said that, I still know you will. Coming in at number 7 this week in the poll, the Florida Gators. Beat South Carolina this past week on the road in Columbia, something my Georgia Bulldogs couldn't do at home in perfect weather. Florida figured out a way to do it on the road in bad weather. Interesting side note, Kyle Trask, who's only played, 4 games this year. Other than that, he hasn't played since he was in 9th grade, JV. He found a way to throw for almost 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in the rain on the road at South Carolina. So shout out to him for figuring out how to spin the ball in wet weather. They did get a win, 38-27 on the road at South Carolina. Florida, of course, is on a bye this week before the big showdown in Jacksonville next week, Georgia versus Florida, the cocktail party. It'll be a huge game. That's 2 weeks away, so we got plenty of time to talk about that game. Georgia and Florida actually are both on a bye this week. So obviously I dropped Georgia out of my top 10 if you haven't figured that out by now. But I say this all the time. People complain about the polls. There's always a couple of main complaints I hear. Teams don't move up or down enough based on how they look week to week, and too much is placed on what teams did the previous year. Well, Georgia's looked like absolute crap for the last 2 weeks. I had them at number 2 3 weeks ago. They're now out of my top 10. So instead of having to read a bunch of comments this week about how I'm just an idiot homer who has UGA rated too high, I'll have to hear about all the Georgia fans tell me that I'm an idiot and that I'm just in love with Justin Fields, and that's why I moved Georgia out of my top 10. I don't personally care about either one of those comments or what those types of people think, but Georgia's not in the top 10. Florida is this week. Again, if you're mad, if you're a Georgia fan and you're mad, go beat Florida. You'll be right back in my top 10, and you'll move up in everyone else's top 10. Same thing if you're Florida. You think you're better than the 7th best team? Fine. Dominate Georgia. You'll probably move up a spot or 2. I don't know. But that game's in 2 weeks. Penn State comes in at number 6, right? Now we're getting to the undefeated teams here. I have Penn State ranked the lowest out of any of the major undefeated teams. There are some undefeated teams that aren't even in the top 10. Baylor, SMU, Minnesota. Those aren't top 10 teams. I'm sorry, they're just not. Penn State is a top 10 team. At least they appear to be right now. They got a big win at home against Michigan this past week, 28-21. They got a dangerous game next week, though, on the road at Michigan State. Michigan State been a little bit disappointing, especially offensively, but I still think Michigan State has a pretty good defense, and it's hard to get up for games 2 weeks in a row. Huge emotional win over a rival at home at night. The whiteout. College game day was there. Now you got to turn right around and go on the road to a Michigan State team with nothing to lose. Penn State's obviously the better team, but this is the type of situation where we sometimes see teams struggle. So Penn State should be on the lookout for that this week on the road at Michigan State, but I've got them at number 6. All right, top 5 time. Number 5, I've got Clemson at number 5. Now, before anybody throws their keyboard through the window or starts spitting on it or anything like that, if Clemson goes undefeated, they're making the college football playoff, period. Any conspiracy theory or set of circumstances that you hear where, well, if this happens and that happens and these teams go undefeated and that team this, then Clemson could be undefeated in number 5 and not get in. It's not going to happen. If Clemson is undefeated, they'll get in. So don't waste your time crying that they're number 5 in this week's Uncle Lou poll. 2 of these teams ahead of you play each other in a couple of weeks. So no matter what, if you win the next couple of weeks, you'll be ahead of one of those 2 teams. You'll be ahead of the loser, even in my poll and in every other poll. Don't worry about it. Clemson fans spending way too much time yesterday and today crying, particularly about the AP poll. You're just making yourself look silly. The reality of the situation is this. Every team on my list ranked ahead of Clemson right now has looked better than Clemson so far this year. That doesn't mean Clemson's not going to beat those teams later in the playoffs or whatever. It doesn't mean Clemson can't go 15-0 and win a national title again. But the reality is, if you just want people to look at this year and stop letting previous years dictate top 10s, and you want people to base teams on how they've played this year, Clemson has not played like a top 4 team. The 4 teams ahead of Clemson have all played better, in my opinion. I'm not talking about who they played. I'm not talking about strength of schedule. I'm talking about watch the football games. The 4 teams I have ahead of Clemson, in my opinion, have played better football so far this year than Clemson has. You beat Louisville 45-10. But again, you did what you were supposed to do. That's all you can do. I'm not necessarily punishing Clemson here by having them at number 5. Again, the season, we're in week 8 now. I've seen enough football to make an educated guess or form an educated opinion here on what I think the top 4 or 5 teams are. And from what I've seen, like I said, the 4 teams I have ahead of Clemson, I just think have played better so far this year. It's not an indication of how the year will finish. So just keep that in mind. You play at home against Boston College this week. The only thing really worth wondering about with Clemson is what happens if they lose one game. Any one game. Doesn't even matter which one. What if Clemson loses one game? What if they lose to Boston College this week and then blow out the rest of the teams they play, including an opponent in the ACC championship game, and finish at 12-1 with an ACC title and defending national champions? Then it's possible they get left out because they just won't have any. I mean, look at Clemson's remaining schedule. And again, this isn't their fault. You only can play. I mean, they have to play their conference games. You only can play who's on your schedule. But look at Clemson's remaining games. It's not likely that they'll play anybody the rest of the year where afterwards people will go, wow, that was an impressive win. Again, that's not Clemson's fault. But if they end up with one loss and enough of these other teams are sitting at undefeated or one loss, then it starts to get a little interesting for Clemson. But I still think Clemson is going to end up getting into the college football playoff this year. But this week, at this point in time, I've got them at number 5. Number 4, I have Alabama. A couple of reasons why. First of all, they beat Tennessee this past week, 35-13 at home. They play home against Arkansas next week. Is that right, or are they on a bye? Maybe they do. Anyway, then you got the big LSU game coming up in a couple of weeks. Tua is hurt. I'm going to tell you right now, if Tua's not healthy or can't play against LSU, I don't see Alabama winning that game. I don't think Alabama offensively can keep up with LSU if Tua doesn't play. Mac Jones obviously is not near the quarterback that Tua is, and even with 2 or 3 weeks leading up to that game where Mac Jones would potentially get the first string reps at practice and stuff like that. I don't see a scenario on planet Earth where Alabama beats LSU without Tua. Of course, he hurt his ankle against Tennessee. They're calling it a high ankle sprain. He had another one of those magic mystery ankle surgeries that apparently Alabama's the only ones that know how to do. He had this same surgery once before, and he was out for 13 days before he returned to practice full speed, is what I read this morning. So take that for what it's worth. They got LSU staring them in the face here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on Tua and how he comes back from that ankle. On top of that, Alabama's defense has not been the defense we're used to seeing this year. So the Tua injury combined with what I've seen from Bama's defense would make me very, very nervous if I'm an Alabama fan. I've been on Alabama all year to win that LSU game. I thought Alabama was the better team. They get them at home. LSU has struggled, losing a lot in a row to Bama. I just had a feeling Bama would find a way to win it. If Tua can come back, I probably still feel that way. But this is going to be one of the biggest storylines, I think, in all of college football over the next couple of weeks is going to be Tua's ankle. But I have them coming in at number 4. I moved Oklahoma all the way up to number 3. They won 52-14 against West Virginia. They play at Kansas State this coming week. Oklahoma's defense is miles better than what it's been the last couple of years. Do they have an elite defense? No. Do they have a defense as good as Ohio State or Clemson or Georgia or Florida or Auburn or even Alabama or even LSU? No, I don't think they do. But it is miles better than what we've seen out of Oklahoma the last couple of years. And offensively, they just keep humming along. Again, now, here we go, 2019, and Oklahoma has the best or one of the best offenses in all of college football. Third straight year they have a quarterback who's going to be in New York City on Heisman night. Whether he wins it or not remains to be seen, but he'll be there nonetheless. He's just having an amazing season. Alex Grinch, whatever the award is for assistant coach of the year or coordinator of the year or whatever, if Alex Grinch doesn't win it, I don't know what's going on. What he's done with that Oklahoma defense is unbelievable. Again, are they a lights out, dominant, shutdown defense? No. But they were ranked in the 100 teens in every defensive category known to man the last couple of years. They're up in the 30s and 40s in almost every category this year. So the turnaround has been unbelievable. They're a dangerous team. I have them sitting at number 3. Number 2 on my list, I have LSU. They destroyed Mississippi State on the road this past week, 36-13. They have a big game against Auburn this coming week. So you got some big games in the top 10 this week. LSU and Auburn, Wisconsin, Ohio State, which we'll talk about in a minute. Joe Burrow just keeps plugging along. I mean, it's just the turnaround LSU has made offensively might even be more impressive than the turnaround that Oklahoma's defense has made. This would be like if Oklahoma had a top 5 defense this year after how bad their defense was last year. LSU has a top 5 offense. Defensively, they seem to have dropped off a little bit. They don't run the ball as well, maybe as we've seen them run it the last couple of years. But again, they're throwing for 400-something yards a game. Burrow throws for 4 or 5 touchdowns a game. He's another one that's going to be sitting in New York City on Heisman night. It's just unbelievable to see what LSU's offense has done in the span of just one season from last year to this year. It's just unbelievable. They look really, really good. They probably have the 2 best wins of any team in the top 10, right? With wins over Texas and who was that? Who was the Florida. So they have a top 10 win in Florida. They have a top 15 win against Texas. Those are probably the no other team I think has 2 wins that are that good. So you can make a case, I think, to put LSU at number 1. I think if you're going just off of resume, you can put LSU at number 1. The problem I have with that is I have Ohio State at number 1. And to me, Ohio State has just been the best team in college football week in and week out from the beginning of the season. They haven't had a week where the offense didn't show up. They haven't had a week where the defense didn't show up. They haven't struggled offensively or defensively in a single game this season. They've just blown out everyone they played, including this past week, 52-3 over Northwestern. Of course, they play Wisconsin this week. Wisconsin coming off a just humiliating loss to Illinois. I still think that'll be a really good game. I don't know what happened with Wisconsin last week. Did they get caught looking ahead? They made some uncharacteristic mistakes, and Illinois, a team that normally makes a ton of mistakes, didn't make very many at all, capitalized on some of Wisconsin's and walked away with a win. So shout out to Illinois and Lovie Smith, who, of course, looks like the only black character from a Frozen movie. You got to look up Lovie Smith. I'll try to put a picture up if I can remember. I think I forgot yesterday, but it's unreal what this guy looks like. It's hilarious. But anyway, I just think Ohio State has been the best team in football this year. That's why I have them number one. Obviously, they don't have the two quality wins that LSU has. I just think they've looked like the best team. Again, I watch a lot of football, and to me, they have just looked like the most complete team. They have a quarterback that may end up in New York too for the Heisman with Justin Fields. I mean, we talking about the Heisman. Let's just be real. You're talking Hurts, you're talking Tua, you're talking Burrow, and you're talking Fields. Maybe Jonathan Taylor sneaks in there. We'll see. But those are the 4 or 5. One of those 4 or 5 people is winning the Heisman. I don't think anyone doubts or denies that. So anyway, I have Ohio State again at number 1 here. So again, the top 10: Notre Dame, Oregon, Auburn, Florida, Penn State, Clemson, Bama, OU, LSU, Ohio State. I only do a top 10. If I was going to do a top 11, 12, 13, top 15, or whatever, yes, I would have Georgia at 11. So a lot of people are probably going to ask that. I would have Georgia at 11. I would have Wisconsin at 12. I would have Baylor at 13. I would have Utah at 14. And I would probably have Cincinnati at 15. Cincinnati is sitting on 1 loss. The only loss was to Ohio State. Now they got destroyed by Ohio State, but Ohio State's destroyed everybody they played. I think they lost 42-0 to Ohio State. But Cincinnati's a pretty good team. I'd have them at 15. So after that, I think you have another group of teams. You're talking about Texas, Minnesota, App State, Boise State, Iowa, Michigan. Minnesota and App State, of course, are undefeated. They're not top 15 teams. They're just not, in my opinion. So, again, for those of you that are going to ask, I would have Georgia at 11. I already know what the comments are going to say, but, again, we play Florida. We're off this week. Georgia could move into the top 10 during the bye week, depending on, if Auburn loses and they then have 2 losses, I would probably move Oregon and Notre Dame up a spot, slide UGA to number 10, and move Auburn to 11. So Georgia may end up being back in the top 10 next week, even though they're off. Even if they're not, though, again, or even if they are, it doesn't matter. They're going to play Florida in 2 weeks, and either Georgia or Florida is going to be out of the top 10 at that point, probably permanently. It's going to be hard for one of those teams to come back from that loss, I think. Both those teams still have to play Missouri. Georgia plays Auburn and Texas A&M on top of that. So if Georgia loses, they're most likely done in the top 10 all season. Maybe Florida finds a way to get back in. I don't know. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. All right, that's it. That is the official Uncle Lou top 10 poll for week 9 of the 2019 college football season. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a great morning.